I'm doing so well. Our first LinkedIn
Awesome.
Live together of the year. How are you
Yes,
today?
I am great. And 2022 will be an awesome year. Definitely.
I can I can feel it already. I can see good things happening already. How has your month of January been so far, Antonio? Tell me about it.
Well, January month is always a month that a lot of people spend, all the money Christmas time. So January month will tend to be a slow month. But however, we always make the best of it. We don't study, the challenges and these things. We just try to go out there and give our best shot. So it's all about mind over matter.
I love that. That's been the same for
Absolutely.
me. A lot of little changes. I've been
Hmm.
reading this book called Atomic Habits. It's quite a popular one throughout the past 2 years. I feel like it's gained a lot of momentum. And there's one quote that I love in there, and it's if you can do something that makes yourself 1% better than the person you were every single day, that 1% in those 365 years and that we or 365 days we have in the
Hmm.
year will actually add up quite a lot. So what I've been doing is just minute little changes, but honestly, I've been loving it. Little changes are so much better because that way you're actually able to adapt them, right? Because we tend to, want to
Definitely.
have these crazy changes happen and then they don't end up happening. So, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
oh no, we have somebody in the comments. Sorry, I was just reading that.
Oh, okay. Um, Suchat said hi from India. Good evening, Suchat. How are you? Hope everybody is fine. I'm just checking on my end here. 1 minute.
Of course.
Yeah. So, objection in sales. Objection in sales. So, what are your thoughts on objections in sales
Objections in sales. When I first started, or are you asking me how I feel about it today?
today,
Because
present times? Because,
today,
yeah,
oh yes, I think present times I feel a lot better about it than I did initially when I first started. I think to me, the initial journey was so terrifying because you don't know what people are going to come at you, like with the questions that they're going to say, with why they're not going to want to buy your product. So initially, it was such a challenge. But now I look at it as a challenge in a complete different way. It's an
yeah,
opportunity. It's a way for me to be creative and really show you that I can provide you the value that you're looking for. I think with objections, if you do everything right until the point of objections, it's really easy to breeze through them because most oftentimes people think about money as being like the number one objection. But when you isolate that, when you isolate, is it just money or is it something else? Then that way you're actually capable of getting down to the root of the problem. Because let's say hypothetically, I know that you have your background in appliances, right?
yeah.
So, let's say you use that. Okay, well, is it money or what is it? If it's something else, we can actually work our way through it. But
Hmm.
then if it is money, I think a key thing here that a lot of salespeople need to do is honor that. You can't just also say, okay, well, no. Because it may actually be a very, very valid fact. It may be that somebody is going through a financially difficult time. So you also during the sale, I think it's so important to honor that because that also shows the client, shows your potential buyer, your prospect that yes, you understand. When you say, okay, I understand, that way they feel more validated. And then you can also talk your way through the rest of the conversation. So, how to summarize your question in a way, how do I feel about objections? Honestly, I think I think it's a fun opportunity to see how good you know your stuff and it can be hard at first, but once you build your way through that process, then I think it's not that debilitating then afterwards.
Awesome. And a lot of people, they tend to always want to buy. In the market right now, some people may say that due to the COVID, they might be in a financial difficulty. We do understand that. But people love to buy. They just want to know that they are getting value and somehow in the product or service that they are purchasing, they will be getting benefit from that. And once it is that they get that benefit, and most important, we always forget the aftercare service. When we sell a customer a product or a service, we have to follow up to find out how the product was with the customer. If they have any issues, how can we better the product if it's become a faulty product for the customer, because it have products where you might order in a bulk and one or two might be faulty. It don't necessarily mean that the product is faulty, but it's just that it's so much being produced rapidly that one or two becomes faulty. So to me, the most important thing in objection of sales is giving the customer that walkthrough and guiding them through the sales process, because most of the times they have skepticism based on a past experience where a sales representative who maybe sold them something was not trustworthy, and they end up told them a lie. And since that, they are skeptical of salespeople. So salespeople is one of the greatest profession that you could possibly get, because you have the opportunity to genuinely help people, and then you have the opportunity to lie to people and then get commission in a big way for yourself. So which road do you want to take? You want to be genuine or you want to be not genuine? And customers are so skeptical because of past bad experiences with sales reps. So we now, as sales professionals, have to overcome that and show these customers that we really do care and we want them to get the best service possible. So I always try to go the mantra number one, customer service that I provide. If it is that someone who's a sales professional who have great customer service, I want to challenge them to be number one in my customer service, because sales is one thing, but if your customer service is poor, then after no one wants to buy from you, because people sometimes buy from your persona, how it is that you interact with them.
No, I agree with everything you said, especially I think the follow-up idea.
Yeah.
It's so great because you can really learn for the future, right? You can learn what exactly went wrong there. So let's say you do follow up with your client, and then you do hear, the faults, your flaws that your product or your service may have. And obviously, if they're not satisfied, then at least that way you can move forward and see what you can do to improve, right? So in the future, if someone would ask you a question, at least you know about this experience. You already have had this prior experience that somebody had difficulties with your product. So when you do come into the objection, point, that
Hmm.
way, okay, you had this experience and now you know what to say. You're more prepared. So you're right, where it all very much comes into play. Every single element does matter quite a lot. The beginning all through the end, with following up afterwards, seeing how your customer is satisfied. Because if they are satisfied, that means that you are doing things right. And if you're not, that means it's time to tweak the process. And then regarding your questions, about almost ethics, I would say, like whether you are an ethical salesperson, whether you choose the road of money. I think, I think that kind of goes to show that I guess you're not really thinking about longevity here.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you why. Because if you are thinking in the long term, like let's say I'm going to use a real estate example, because
Yeah.
houses, you have very different people that can sell you homes, right? You can have an experienced person, and they're good at it because they're quite honest. They will show you, for an example, like this house. Okay, well, you want to do an inspection, you find things in this inspection. Okay, well, that's gonna maybe you find something wrong with it. They're going to be honest with you, and you're going to want to return back to that person. You're going to want to
Hmm.
buy with that person again, right? But then you have a sleazy salesperson, realtor, that sells you this home, and then all of a sudden there's so many things that are wrong with it, and then all of a sudden that is already broken. That report, that relationship is broken, right?
Hmm.
So why would you want to go back to that person, and why would you want to go, make a have repeating business with that person, right? So it does all tie in together. Like this whole sale process does tie in together, and building your credibility, building your reputation, it is important with people that you've worked with before, because word of mouth is one of the most easiest way to get another customer, right? So
Correct.
word of
Yeah.
mouth travels so fast, and then boom, you lose your credibility, you lose your reputation. So I don't think it's worth it to just sell to sell, because at the end of the day, you're looking at a very, very short life in whatever business you're going to be running.
hmm And selling is questioning. Selling is basically asking the right questions. That is basically needs analysis assessment. So when it is that you ask the right questions, you will get the right answers, and then you will know how it is to cry the customer or the prospect, should I say, along the straight line process in terms of qualification. So some people tend to qualify a customer based on their financial status, but everybody loves to buy. And if it is that you are providing value, they will buy. So don't study the um, prospect financial status, because not every prospect will tell you exactly what you want to hear in terms of their financials. They may not want to say, but if you are providing value, they will buy. So the first thing you should do is more about educating, walking the customer along that straight line process. And then after, now, when it reaches a point, you could maybe ask the question, but the customer want to know, basically what you could bring to them. And that is the whole
Yes,
idea
yes.
about it. So if it is that you do not know your product, you do not have that knowledge, you're not the type of person who is willing to ask the right questions or don't know how to ask the right questions, well, then after, basically, you are not selling.
No, exactly, exactly. Like product knowledge and questions are everything, because for example, if you get confused, if you get lost, that means why would I, as a buyer, want to buy from somebody that doesn't know their stuff, that doesn't know
True.
everything about their product, right? So it builds that honesty. It builds that, like I think one of the best ways to use marketing is by educating others,
Correct.
because you're providing them with value, right? So educational based marketing, like for an example, let's use post on LinkedIn. Okay, well,
Mhm.
if you are providing, even just on a regular text post there, if you are providing people, let's just say even like your average person that's scrolling through LinkedIn,
Mhm.
value, they're already drawn to you. You're giving them something that they can learn from. And everybody, like you said, wants to buy, but when they actually know about a product, when you're telling them all this information, all the great benefits, then they're way more inclined to want to gravitate to you as a person, to want to gravitate to your product, because you're showing them the value. And then this can also be transferred through to the sales call. You can also say, oh, you agree with me that you see the value in this, that it can bring to your business.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, that's already a mini close that you have there. Making sure that when you are talking with your prospect, oh, so you agree that what I do here can benefit you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then when you do get to the objection stage, if you're already doing micro closes, how is that going to make the sales process hard when the person's already subconsciously thinking, "Oh yeah, yeah, that does sound
Mhm.
good. That you can help me, right?" So it does, all comes in different stages, right? So the first stage, you're right, is being very knowledgeable and informative about your
Yeah.
market, about your product or service, and being one step ahead and having those questions prepared, having, okay, well, what if they ask me about this? What if they ask me about that? Because you just don't want to come in uninformed and be a deer in the headlights. I don't know. I don't. Let me get back to you, because then you lose that sale, and that's
So
just,
true.
it hurts. It hurts.
So, for example, right? Let's say I'm working in plants industry, and we have
Hmm.
fridge, stove, dryers, etc. But in the fridge section, it have a particular model of fridge that as being a salesperson to yourself that is faulty. So the customer now, right? They purchase one, and they didn't purchase it from you. They purchased it from the store. But a day you went into the showroom and the customer sees you're representing the company, and they come to you and ask you about that particular product that they purchased, and they said, I got a problem with the product. Water is seeping through from the underneath of the refrigerator. Is that a common issue? You know, knowing that that product is faulty, should be honest, despite that you're representing a company and you want your company to get that great image, but you know to yourself that that product is faulty. Always put yourself in the customer's shoes where if you are the customer, would you purchase that item? And yourself, you know to yourself that that product is faulty, you wouldn't purchase it for yourself. So try to be honest and let the customer know. That is just one product of many products that your company supplies. And if it is that you will have to do a recall on that particular product, so be it. Tell the customer the right thing. They will appreciate you, and they may even go on to purchase another refrigerator from you, or maybe they may refer you to someone else when someone is willing to purchase your product. So that is something that sales professionals have to understand, that we always, in every business, it must have one faulty item out of the bunch of categories of items. So do not try just to get the sale to lie to that customer and feel to yourself that, okay, I could tell that customer that one little lie, as we say, right? And afterwards, it wouldn't occur again with any other customer. No. Try to always be putting yourself, if you was that person to purchase that product, would you like that sales professional to lie to you? And that is
Oh
basically,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
And that is basically answering an objection, but in a professional manner, being honest. And the customer will appreciate your honesty, because they know to themselves that salespeople have to sell in order, to gain commission, in order to gain revenue, whatever the case is. However, seeing that you are being trustworthy, genuine to them, they basically will keep you top of mind when it is that they in the future would maybe want to purchase your product, or if their friend want to purchase one, they will refer their friend to you.
Yes, I think a really common example also with recalls, to just to add to your example here, is vehicles.
Hmm.
So you know how, or at least like in my experience, I have a Volkswagen, I have a Jetta. So
Yeah.
I've experienced, unfortunately, very many recalls. There has been a lot of letters that have been sent to my house, notifying me about X, Y, and Z. Come into the dealer, and then we'll solve your problem. Okay, but it's the fact that they, as soon as the issue is made aware, they let me know. It's not like all of a sudden, 5,000 vehicles are, being completely, written off. Okay. They provide me with a solution. They tell me to come in and they handle my problem. And the service that the service people, reps at the dealership provide me is going to be the lasting impression I have. It's not going to be of the company, of that specific, model that I have,
Hmm.
that has these issues. No, because I think that it's fair to say in any industry, every single product is going to have some sort of a fault or a defect. Like, not everything's going to be perfect. That's impossible. And I think that if you're not aware of that, then I don't know, you live in like a fantasy world, because that's the reality of things, right? Just like shirts, just like, let's just say, jewelry, it may have like a faulty clasp, or my Apple Watch, my phone, it may have issues. That's okay. It's all about how you handle those issues, because that's going to be the lasting impression of whether I want to come back to you and do service with you. If you fix my problem, if you provide me with a solution, and also be mindful of the fact that I already spent money on your product. So I don't want to be paying more for something that you sold to me that's broken and now I have to fix, because that's another thing, right?
Hmm.
As long as you actually give me something to work with, then I think that way I actually want to go and repurchase from you. And I'm completely understanding of the fact that what you sold to me maybe does have some issues, and that's okay. But it is the key component there of what's the service going to be like when I am dealing with the problems of your product.
And let me ask you this. A customer asks, sorry, I have to cancel. I will get back to you later. how do you respond to that customer?
In what particular way?
A
Like they have to
product. So
cancel my meet.
let's say for example, you are selling cars and a customer say, "Hey, sorry, I have to cancel. I'll get back to you later," because you was basically in the middle of the sale with the prospect, and just so out of the blue, they came and said, "Hey, what? Sorry, I have to cancel. I will get back to you."
I would remind them. I would say, "Well, I'm really sorry to hear that," but I would also mention, just to remind you, like this is a really, really good deal. Let's say we are buying a vehicle, right? This is, like an only limited time offer. You seemed very interested in the product. Can I ask you, why do you have to cancel? What's wrong? So I would really want to get as much information out of them as possible to know kind of what pivoted in their mind, why all of a sudden now they're no longer gravitating towards my product, why they no longer want to purchase it.
And scarcity sells. So if it is that you are telling them, "Hey, we have a limited edition," which could basically be true, right? That alone might entice the prospect to be like, I wonder if it is making a right decision or a wrong decision. So you really have to ask the right questions to find out, well, why it is all of a sudden you want to cancel and you will get back to me. These are things that you really want to find out, and you want to give them some knowledge that you did not tell them, some hidden knowledge, which is true, right? But you want to show them that you really care about their needs and why it is that this vehicle should be a good fit for them.
No, exactly, right? That's why a key component to all of this is also listening. So listening to your customer story, listening to what all the things that they mentioned, right? So maybe they're canceling on you. Let's just say because all of a sudden, like a loan for their car, the car that they're purchasing didn't fall through, right? So that is actually a valid objection. Or maybe they are canceling because they did see a better deal, so that's when you
Hmm.
have to kind of remind them and walk through with them one more time and show them the value that, buying this particular vehicle will provide them. And then also tell them that, this deal, this opportunity, this is a very temporary thing. So I think just focus on the different factors that make that product a lot more appealing.
And it reached a point now, the reason why it is that the customer basically said, "Here, what? I'll have to call you back, sorry," is because they realized when they went to the bank, they did not get the exact loan for the vehicle. They get the loan for the vehicle. However, they did not have the money for the insurance for the vehicle. So it's like the answer to the question is, I do not have the necessary funds. How would you respond to that now, since that they have the money for the vehicle, but not the money for the insurance of the vehicle?
I would try to think if there's any other options as to reducing the payment, because I think, let's say, instead of thinking about it as like a 12-month thing, why don't we expand it throughout a longer course of time? So that way, let's say, okay, you have X amount of money, but you have X amount of money coming in like monthly, right? So you're
Hmm.
not able to do like a higher payment, which obviously you want to do the higher payment, because when you expand, we all know that when we extend the payment process of something, the hidden, the little hidden fees, payments do end up adding up, right? But I mean, if that is the only option, you do have to sell them on that, that idea that this is an option for you. It's still a really, really good deal, although you are experiencing a little bit of a financial hiccup here with the insurance. I do have another solution for you. So
Hmm.
okay, we were talking about doing 12 months, but why don't we do it at a little bit of a, like a lower payment over the course of 24 months? Oh, okay. So that way I understand that, you still want to purchase it. I understand that you are not able to afford the insurance, but I am providing you with at least one solution towards that problem you're having.
And then you bounce up the rudeness of this customer now, where the customer is saying that I will be paying more in terms of interest for the vehicle. Just send me some information. How would you react to that now, being the customer showing you that rudeness all of a sudden, and the customer was very polite all the time?
It happens. It happens. You just have to keep your cool. I would just, for me, if anybody is being, rude or showing a little bit of aggression, I would just kind of I would be very calm and explain to them because when you have when you have two people that are bickering, it only gets worse,
Mhm.
right? But then when you're calm and you through with them with the process one more time, it's a lot easier that way, and you explain to them very rationally, like, okay, I understand. First of all, you always have to say, I understand what you're going through. I understand what you're feeling. I understand what you're experiencing, because you need to give them that validity, that valid response. Okay, you understand what I'm feeling, even though I'm so angry. That's that's okay at least. And then you have to kind of talk through them one more time, basically, and just don't give into that kind of attitude. If it does drift to it being a lot more of a negative situation, then you obviously know that not every single time somebody is worth it, not every single sale is worth it. That some people, just maybe they're super interested at first, something happens and they're just completely,
Mhm.
they lose the appeal, and that's okay as well. You also have to know that you did everything in that particular case scenario, and that's okay. That sometimes not every single sale, you won't make every single sale, and that's okay. You did your best. That's all that matters.
And you know what I'll go on to say is that, let's say it's a straight line process, right, in terms of the sale, and it reach a point is 1 to 10, 5 and under being that you're not too sure if it is possible to close this prospect. So in your instance, you pass 5 because the prospect has the money for the vehicle itself. The prospect is interested in the vehicle, right? It's just that the insurance aspect, they do not know where they're getting that necessary funds from. So I would say in that instance, you reach, let's say, about 7. And what I would say is that managers should work with the sales representatives, because when it is that the prospect is talking to the sales representative, they tend to be a bit harsh when it is that they can't get their way. But when the manager now comes involved, they tend to listen. So you could explain to a manager, here what I reach a point at 7 on the straight line sales process where I know that I can close the sale. It's just with the insurance aspect. You now come and just act on my behalf and just tell the customer that, here what we do understand what is happening with you right now, and think about it. Just let's work out something where you can still have the money to purchase for your insurance, right? And at the same time, you have the money for your vehicle. So we'll give you a lower installment rate going forward. So the same thing what you said in essence is the same thing that the manager is going to say. But just by you telling the prospect that, here what, I'm going to call my manager so my manager could have a discussion with you, they will feel most welcome and appreciated for that. And when the manager explain that to them, they tend to be more calm and they will be like, okay, I will buy into it. Because most people, when they get that opportunity to speak to higher management, and higher management, come calm and give them a word of advice, they always tend to be like, all right, I appreciate that, dealers close. So the whole idea is that the sales rep and the manager should work together in the sense, when it is you reach over 7 in the sales process straight line and almost a close, your manager and you should correlate, because it's just 3 more basically to close the sale, which is not much. So that should be a tactic going forward in the sales process.
Oh yes, your manager should definitely support you in any possible way, right? So I really like that example, because it's a great example in terms of team building as well, right? So
Yeah.
that means that your sales staff is doing their job, but there will be some certain instances that people I've had that in my past working in customer service where people didn't just want to deal with me and they wanted to speak to my manager, and that
Mm-hmm.
was always it was always a little frustrating as a salesperson. But you are completely right that it's not that they're taking anything away, they're actually like assisting you
Yeah.
within that
Mm-hmm.
particular sale. They're supporting you because they want to see you close that deal. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you are completely right. If all else fails, bring in somebody that is a little bit higher. They'll essentially tell you the same thing, but hearing it from another person
Yeah.
sometimes gives that validity and that reassurance to your prospect
And I would
or your
always say
buyer.
too, never let the buyer now tend to ask you to speak with management. You take it upon yourself when it reaches a certain level that you tell the buyer that, hey, I will go and speak with management and they will come back and speak with you, because when it is you do that now, it's showing that you have a lot of interest with the buyer and the buyer appreciates that. So that is something that we have to take in consideration. Never let the buyer ask for management. You ask to speak with management before and let the buyer know, hold on shortly, my manager is coming to have a discussion with you. And they will feel so welcome and so calm. They will go back from that state of being maybe aggressive to a state of calmness when they know to themselves that the manager is coming to speak to them. And the manager will give them some words of advice as the best possible way to close the sale. Is your sale, but the manager now helping when it is you pass that mark in terms of the sales process, the straight line sales process.
Oh, well, exactly, right? You don't want to hand the power over to the buyer as much
Mhm.
as, that the
You want to be in
when you hear
control
that, you
of,
kind of
yeah.
exactly, exactly. You want to be in control the whole entire time, right? So
Hmm.
just letting them know that you have this power. Oh, okay. Things aren't going so well. Well, let me find another resource to make sure that this transaction will actually be smooth, that you'll be okay and calm, that it won't be a hostile environment. So it is providing that client with a possible solution, and it's a really easy solution. It's just
Hmm.
speaking to another person and telling them exactly what's happening, and then hearing it from another person. It's always better to hear something from another person too. You get, as a client, you feel a lot more reassured that that is the best option, right?
Yeah, correct, exactly. And let's go a little further. When it is now, all right. So basically, the manager came in, and all right, he was able to close that sale. So we're moving on to other customer now, where this customer comes in and they asking about what features that this product have, this car basically has, because they went to
Hmm.
other company, and the other company, that vehicle that they wanted, it had many features. And what I would say should be done is don't speak about the features as yet. Ask about the features that what he was talking or she was talking about with the vehicle in that brand of company where they went to. So when it is that you hear the features there, you know exactly how to go about explaining the same features that your company has in terms of the car, but in such a way that it could correlate to that other brand of vehicle that he maybe went or she maybe went to check out. So in that way now you're being honest, but you could actually define and say, well, our vehicle may not have this, but in replace of that, we have these other features that I think, might may be beneficial to you based on the needs that you mentioned about.
Well, yeah, it's basically, I don't want to say it's necessarily like an upsell, but you are in a way upselling them on this experience, right? So you are
Hmm.
listening here. Okay, well, what we have checks off all the boxes. Oh, but what else are you looking? Oh, okay. So you don't want to, like you mentioned, you don't want to say, okay, well, our cars have this, that, because then that
Hmm.
person's going to think, well, well, why don't I go to the third dealership? Why
Correct.
don't I check what else they have? So you really want to listen to what their problems are because essentially that's all it is, right? They
Mm-hmm.
are looking for a vehicle. They have these they want these wants and needs. Okay. You are then providing them with a solution. Oh, look, this package. It's a little bit of an upgrade from our basic package, but it has all these things. Oh, and look, there's also this feature as well, this feature as well. And for the price that you're looking for, this is a great option because it not only has all the things you want, but it also has a little bit more. So that's
So
where
true.
you are, you are finding that solution for that person. And that way, you know, they are not going to want to think about a third place. They're thinking, okay, well, look, they are already giving me everything I want, but they're also going a little bit above and beyond that.
Awesome. So I just want to highlight some of our connections, who viewed our live, right? So Sujat said, hi from India, right? Um,
Hello from Canada.
right? Sylvia Cummins said, good day.
Sylvia.
Always a pleasure
Hi.
hearing from you.
Oh, yes. Hi, Sylvia. It's Sylvia.
So Gary said, linking this healthy conversation, folks, looking forward to connect with both of you. Kindly send connection request to me after the session. Do let me know if I should send one.
Okay. Well, we will connect with you afterwards, Gary. Thank you for tuning in.
Definitely. So, in closing, what would you like to tell the audience exactly, if anything, that you would like to provide information about?
Well, I think in terms of what we talked about today, I feel like if you are starting off fresh or if you are, a more experienced salesman, I think that objections are something that it's a learning process, they're initially they can be very, very dreadful, but then obviously when you are, in your journey of becoming a better salesman, they do tend to get a lot easier, right? So I think just always be prepared, be one step ahead, and think about any possible questions that your client or your prospect may be asking you. And that way, you will be able to get to the close a lot easier and win the sale and always follow up. Always follow up.
Always follow up. That is so true. And people, selling is helping. Never try to sell someone something. Help them make the appropriate buying decision for them. So sell them based on their needs and their wants, and not necessarily to sell a product to them that you know to yourself that they don't want, but you just want to get that sale because you want that commission. So selling is helping, and once it is, we always have that in our minds. The selling process would not be difficult. And I would also like to add that think about selling as the straight line process where it is at this point is 0 and at this point is 10. And obviously in the middle is 5. So when it is that you realize that by prospecting to a prospect and it reach a point that is 5 and under, right? Don't bother to waste your time to be going after that prospect, going after that prospect. If you see that that prospect is 5 to 10, well, then after you keep on following up, following up, following up to close that sale. So sales is something where it is that we cannot be wasting time with one prospect, knowing to ourselves that that prospect not going to buy, when it have a lot of prospects out there who want us to meet with them to have that great discussion so that they will purchase our product or our service. So that's it in closing. Do have a great one. And thanks, Sylvia, and you have a great day. And we shall do it again
Thank you.
as usual.
Yes, thank you for having me and always looking forward to our next talk.